Gracias. Hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial en la ETSAM. Probablemente de las cosas que a mí más me ha emocionado en mi vida fue hace un montón de años, cuando se organizó un homenaje a los arquitectos indios que habían trabajado con Le Corbusier y con Pierre Jeanneret construyendo Chandigarh. Los arquitectos, las arquitectas que enseñaron a Pierre Jeanneret y a Le Corbusier lo que era construir en la India y cómo el movimiento moderno, la arquitectura del moderno, se hacía de pronto la arquitectura más emblemática de la nueva capital de un estado contemporáneo. Hoy tenemos a Sangeet Sharma. Su padre fue uno de los arquitectos de la mano de ese Le Corbusier. Tuve el honor de conocerlo hace 20 años. Desafortunadamente, con 94 años es complicado viajar desde la India hasta Madrid, pero la maravilla es que todavía es uno de los testigos de una época heroica de la arquitectura. Hoy vamos a tener en nuestra casa de nuevo a alguien a quien queremos mucho, Rosa Cervera, profesora de nuestra casa y que debería haber sido catedrática de nuestra casa, y en cambio lo ha sido de la Escuela de Arquitectura de la Universidad de Alcalá, que suele tener la tendencia a robar a lo mejor de casa y llevárselo allí. Para mí es un honor que Rosa haga la introducción de la obra de Sangeet Sharma y tener un 2x1, tener a una de las figuras más emblemáticas de la arquitectura mundial, pero al mismo tiempo tener a alguien de nuestra casa y tener a Rosa de nuevo con nosotros.
Bueno, me siento abrumada por las palabras de Manuel, a quien quiero, aprecio y admiro muchísimo también, y le he admirado a lo largo de todos los años que hemos podido compartir desde jóvenes. Para mí es un gusto estar aquí, en el salón de actos, donde siento como vosotros he estado tantísimas veces, y lo que es mi casa, aunque hoy, desde hace años, enseñé en la Universidad de Alcalá, que es ahora mismo mi otra casa también. Bueno, mi relación con India ha sido larga, desde que muy jovencita, en el viaje que hicimos de fin de carrera, tuve oportunidad de visitar India, me atrapó. Es una cultura, es un país subyugante y os animo a ir. Hoy en día ese país tiene mucho atractivo para los jóvenes porque está en plena ebullición, en efervescencia absoluta. Es un país que es una realidad importante en el mundo y tiene ahora mismo una arquitectura de gran valía. Hoy estamos aquí por la larga relación que he tenido con la familia Sharma y en concreto con el padre, que hoy nos acompaña a nivel emocional, no puede estar a nivel físico, que es S.D. Sharma, uno de los grandes colaboradores vivos, de los pocos, yo creo que es el único que queda vivo de los que trabajaron con la generación de los que han sido los maestros del movimiento moderno, en este caso con Le Corbusier y con Pierre Jeanneret, a quien no podemos olvidar y a quien Sharma está haciendo una gran labor para recuperar su importante papel. Normalmente hay una cierta confusión, sin embargo, sobre la figura de Pierre Jeanneret. Sin embargo, sin esta personalidad tan potente, que es primo de Le Corbusier y que fue su mano derecha en la construcción de muchas cosas a lo largo de su vida y en concreto Chandigarh, esto hubiera sido imposible. Después de la pandemia he tenido oportunidad de recuperar mis viajes a India y de volver a contactar con la familia Sharma y surgió la idea de hacer una exposición, que tenemos ahora una exposición de su obra en la época de Chandigarh y posterior, que tenemos ahora mismo en la Universidad de Alcalá, y os invitamos a ir a verla, en la Escuela de Arquitectura, inauguramos ayer, y también hemos recogido una conversación que mantuvimos con él, que tuvo la amabilidad de darnos dentro de la casa en la que Pierre Jeanneret vivió durante 15 años. Y es un récord, creo que es un legado de la generación de tránsito entre los maestros y nosotros, los que estamos aquí todavía. Hoy nos acompaña Sangeet Sharma, Su hijo, que es también un gran arquitecto, muy reconocido y con una obra muy significativa en India, y nos va a presentar desde los orígenes en Chandigarh hasta la contemporaneidad a través de una familia de varias generaciones de arquitectos. Really, we appreciate very much that you come here. It's for us an honor and a pleasure to receive you and to listen to your words, and as well to feel your father that is with us in some way as well. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming here.
Hello, everybody. I thank Professor Manuel, Professor Rosa, and everybody for inviting me here. I'm so blessed to be in this place where so many great architects have been moving in these corridors. And I feel honored to be here again. Thank you so much for the invitation. As for my language, I'll speak in English, but Le Corbusier said one thing which I want to tell you. He says that a picture can speak 1,000 words, and if the building is good, you don't need to speak. And if it is not good, how much ever I speak, it doesn't make sense. So let's see what I bring to you from Chandigarh, India. India is a vast country. But we feel very blessed because the modernism actually took place on the soil of Indian subcontinent. At the time, it was 60s and 70s when Le Corbusier was working there, Otto Koenigsberger, Edward Lutyens, Louis Kahn, and all those masters were having presence on the Indian soil. Before I talk to you about Chandigarh, I must tell you stories of modernism. I must tell you something about Corbusier. Whatever I speak, it is from what is called the horse's mouth. My father is 94. He's still working in the office while I'm enjoying beautiful coffee in Madrid. And that generation of architects never retire. When Corbusier got this opportunity to do the master plan of Chandigarh, he was 65-year-old. And sometimes we plan to retire at the age of 60. Those people, as they grow older, they become more magnificent. Their energy, their experience becomes more larger on the paper. And architecture is all about experience. Modernism, we all know, in a very simple words, that we eliminate what is not required, we build only what is important, for the purpose of the human comfort, human values. Humanity became an important tool rather than the iconography, rather than the image of a building, rather than building my name of the building. It was the human comfort. And that became important after the war. Suddenly when we realize that architecture must shift into more balanced proposition. This man, incredible, because each time these modern masters walked in Chandigarh, a lot of questions people ask me, so I will try to answer your questions. I have only 30 minutes. They used to work in the tent outside. At the time, it was all village. And a lot of people ask me, where did they work? They work in the tents. All the drawings of Chandigarh were made in his Paris office, and the Indian architects translated his drawings into construction drawings. I must also tell you, at that time there were no computers, there was no RMCs, there was no mixed concrete. So those images of 5-story building where there's a ladder and a lady who is carrying the molten concrete on the head at the floor of 4th floor and dropping it sometimes with a child on her back is amazing. When you see a building, you see in its time frame. You appreciate at the times it was built. And Chandigarh, of course, is timeless. But I need to tell you what becomes, why this is so important, even today. Everything what goes into making of great architecture belongs to this city. First, political will. When India got independence, the whole state of Punjab was divided. Half was Pakistan, half was India. So, to give back the self-respect of the people, of the refugees who came from Pakistan was important. So the political will, the first thing that the Prime Minister Nehru said that, let me move my country into the modern times, and no other better way than architecture. This is what is happening in the history. You celebrate victory by building monuments, building palaces, gateways. You build beautiful edifices of romance like Taj Mahal. So this was an opportunity. And all the refugees had to be given a new home. I am a son of a refugee. My father came back at the age of 19. Half of his family was killed along with families at that time. Started from a scratch. And there was an advertisement of a draftsman in the paper. He applied. And there it is. The universe brings people together. The story goes like this, friends, that 3 big administrative officers were sent to the world to bring the best architect. And they were, when they came to know about Corbusier, they were waiting outside his office for 5 days. He said, no, I don't want to come to India. No. They actually begged him, please come. He had conditions that I will come only twice in 1 year. All the drawings will be made in Paris office. They said, okay, fine. What a great opportunity of a person. We don't get such opportunities anymore in this life. We have horrible clients and horrible paymasters. But he had problems with his fees also. There are letters which we have where he is requesting Mr. Nehru that my payments are not made. That's okay. That's a part of our profession. Corbusier, you all know, I'm sure you all know everything about Corbusier. But I'm going to tell you some stories which are straight from my father and from the people who worked with him. We are a generation, 3 generations working together. I think the only family, at least in India, I know. My father, myself, my wife, my son, we all work together. We fight together. So what we do is that under the same umbrella, we have separate projects. And of course, we help each other, but then we have separate projects. If we get an award belongs to me. If I get bashed up by a client, again, I have to take it. Corbusier worked in the morning on his paintings, then on his sculpture, then he wrote, and then at the end of, I think, afternoon, he did architecture. And I was telling my students yesterday at Alcala also that that's where we understood the meaning of this phrase that architecture is the mother of all arts. Surprising, we only heard about it. This is the man who lived that, and we felt it in our city. Sustainability. It's a buzzword today. Everybody wants to use sustainability, green buildings, Griha buildings. We have this 60 years ago in Chandigarh. Those 2 monks, they call them monks, because they only had 2 dresses and they would live in a very austeric situations without any riches, and they would work in that heat without any fans, just dedicated into this. And they taught us our own language of materials, bricks, terraces, jute, and the way of constructions. I mean, the foreigners taught us about our own sustainability. We are so indebted to them. We are delighted that those people have this courage to tell us what is economical, what is good architecture. As a matter of fact, if this did not happen in India or in the world, we would not know what civil architecture is all about. We were making palaces, we were making corbels, cornices, curved roofs, domes all over the world. In India, we were making forts, we were making palaces for the kings. But architecture for the normal human being, it is because of this. Every first generation architect, particularly in the Indian subcontinent, in the Asian subcontinent, is directly or indirectly influenced by them. Mr. Doshi, Mr. B.V. Doshi, you must have heard the name, is the only Pritzker Award winner of India, worked in Corbusier's office in Paris. Mr. Rajrawal and all those big names have been influenced by Chandigarh, by working with him, looking at his buildings. We still have millions of visitors every year. There must be something right in Chandigarh that we have visitors even today. Some very rare pictures of at the time when it was being built. A lot of people think that Chandigarh was, Le Corbusier came, did something, died, and that's it. But there are people who carry forward the legacy, who carry forward the values of architecture. I'm going to talk about them. Only city in the world where its stomach is cut into the green belt. Only city in the world where every citizen is very proud owner of it. They say, how is this city still green? I say, because we own it. Not the government, not the administration. The normal person on the road is the owner of the city. Le Corbusier made only for 2.5 million. Today we have almost 10, but still it is very nicely done. Above the red line is what Le Corbusier designed. Rest all is after his death. Architects are not builders, they are visionaries. And I'm so blessed to be in this place where this college has given so many visionaries. He knew the importance of the growth, and he wrote it in his books, the Edicts of Chandigarh, how the expansion must take place. So therefore, in spite of all this expansion, there is no chaos. There are no roadblocks. There is no energy which goes wastage when we travel on the roads. The only city which says that if this is the main city, around it I would like to have a green belt so that there is no construction around the city, so that there is no pollution, so that there is no interference. And this is one of the greatest gifts of the city. Just to tell the students sitting behind that this is the previous master plan. There was already an architect working, Albert Mayer, on the city. So when Le Corbusier came, they say he overnight changed the plan by making it straight, and that's all he did. No, that's not the fact. You need 40 years of experience to make a straight line, and it's not very easy. So this is old, but it was already experimented. Le Corbusier said that the future belongs to automobile. He knew that looking straight was important, and this is why his master plan is straight. only city in the world which has got 7 types of roads still in use. The pedestrian, as the speed grows, the road becomes wider. The cyclist, the pedestrians, the main road, coming into the sectors, it's all very beautiful. Every sector in itself is a city in itself. And it's amazing. I mean, how can somebody think, a community living? They say it's not very contextual, it's not very Indian. It is, because this is how we live. This is how we live as a part of community, and every sector is a part of community. It is important for 10 minutes to tell you the history of Chandigarh before I talk to you anything else. The green belts are actually governed. They are maintained. They are still green. 70 years, and what you see today, the city of Chandigarh, was what it was 70 years before. It's the same. Le Corbusier did only 2 things in Chandigarh. One was the master plan, and the other was the capital complex. Nothing else. Everything else, the housing, the schools, the civic buildings, the hospitals, are done by other architects. 4 foreigners made Chandigarh. Corbusier, his cousin Jean Rey, Maxwell Fry, and Jane B. Drew. They were the ones who were trained in tropical architecture. They gave us what is called the modern housing. Everything in Chandigarh is graphical. Le Corbusier is the only architect whose sketches are documented. It's called Sketches of Corbusier. Because what he thought, what he conceived, he put that on the paper in 3rd dimension, which got translated into the building. And you can actually measure them. They're the same. When we were in school, my father used to tell me, please make a sketch in 3rd dimension. I never did. I regret it. Because it took me many years to understand that, yes, we have to draw in the 3rd dimension. The client will not understand your plans. He'll understand the 3rd dimension in scale. We often ignore what our teachers say, but I think we should understand what they say. An emblem. He did 285 sketches to get the proportion right, friends, to get that right angle of the thumb. 285 sketches. I've written a book, it's called Corpse Capital, which is translated into 7 languages. Because everybody asked me the same questions, I have to give them the same answers. So I wrote a book, I said, okay, don't ask me, read it. I talk about the stories of this. He died without seeing this emblem made. But this became a symbol of the city. A hand to give and a hand to receive. The very rare pictures I have. This was at the time when this was all barren land. And the hills. Chandigarh has got in the north full hills. And such important decisions how these masters take is, I'm going to tell you some very great things, how the visionaries take a decision and how small architects like me can't even think about it. All architecture in Chandigarh is mathematics. It's a golden section, golden ratio, 1:1.6. Corbusier said that all architecture is numbers. It's mathematics. It's art converted into mathematics. It's sculpture where people live, where human beings survive. So I'm not going to make a sculpture only to look at. People are going to use it. Amazing things they taught us. So grateful to those people who did good work. There are very few masters of architects who did good work, but they did not tell us the mystery behind it. The good part of Corbusier was he did good work, but he also told us what is good and what we should follow. That's why we have the whole breed of 2nd generation architects whom he trained. And one of them is my father. People tell me, how did they study the the complicated climate of Chandigarh. Like this. For 6 months he was traveling and wanted to keep the heat away, and he devised a system of louvers, parasols, the bras soleil, and this was the way it was done. And this became the elevation, the character of the city. We still use this, in spite of being an air-conditioned city now. Very momentous picture where the model was presented to the Chief Commissioner and the sketch below. The person who made the model did not know French. In fact, nobody knew French in India at that time. And Le Corbusier did not know English. The only ways of communication was the drawing. Nobody spoke anything. Nobody whispered anything. Just a drawing. Imagine the whole city being made silently. Drawing, this. By the end of his career in Chandigarh, he knew about 5 words. Do this. Do it rightly. Do it good. That's all. That's what he would do. And of course, my father tells me, Coke, yeah. Drawings were so simple. The best of the plans of the masters are so simple. But how they translate it into the elevations was their genius. Plans are never complicated. That's what they taught us. That's what my father tells me. That's what I follow. But how you bring them out into the elevation is where your skill of a painter, sculptor, poet, artist, everything matters. I just told you that he says that all architecture is mathematics. Everything can be gauged, measured. There are a lot of stories which my father told Professor Rosa when she came to India he's asking about the measurements of a table, and my father said approximately. He says, don't use word approximately, tell me correctly. There is no room for approximation. Look at the dictations of these masters. All these are images of the Capitol complex. We can say it's a painting in itself. Every opening in the ramp has a meaning. As you align, as you ascend, you see outside a new perspective you can gauge. You see the complex in a new dimension. That's why those openings. Why oval, why circle, or why round? It is full of meaning, not just because I like it. He says there is no such thing as I like it, and that's why there has to be a meaning behind it. And the colors are all original, friends. Nothing is done on this. Look at this. The pristine concrete with some colors. It's the same. I feel so privileged because now I am a part of the committee who preserve these monuments, who is in the committee, so we carry forward these kind of things. I must be around a 3 to 4 year old when my father worked with Jean Rey, his cousin, more closely on various houses after office hours. So he used to come to our house sometime. And vaguely I remember, I wish I had known he was so important. I would have been on his lap sometime. The tapestries are all art. They call it scientific art because they are acoustic tapestries for a purpose, for a function, but they are art. It's art into function mingled to good to look at. Whatever we do, he says, it must be good to look at. The Capitol complex, the High Court. A lot of people ask me, like you, students, when I go abroad, talking about Chandigarh, why this triangle and why the vertical? What is the geometry? I don't know. He knew the geometry, and we just look at it. But whatever it is wonderful. A simple plan like this, which the central dome, auditorium, the rest is the plan. The way you move inside with double height columns, small columns, you enter, you feel the spaces, astounding. One thing which he taught us, in the second generation, third generation, the section is most important. He says first is the sketch and then is the section. Unless you make your section transparent, you will never be able to understand your own building. Very complicated sections, they look, but otherwise they're very simple. That's how you understand the proportion. Sketch, translation. I especially made this for my student friends to understand how important it is for your hands to move on the paper. How the colors make an impact, the psychology of color. This is the first time the second generation understood the impact of the color on your mind. He was obviously, I was telling yesterday, also influenced by Cubism. Pablo Picasso was Le Corbusier's great friend, and his paintings resemble each other in terms of influence, not imitation. John Ray said that beautiful buildings, like beautiful models, are best to photograph. If there are angles to your building where you can photograph, that means you have achieved your goal. Now look at these images. Every small aspect of any of this building is a story in itself. That is a water spout. It's a gutter for rainwater collection, but that becomes a part of the porch. That becomes sort of an iconographic in itself. Every part of the building is an icon in itself, not the building. The building is a masterpiece. This is the caliber of modernism. Someone told him, why did you not face your 300 feet secretariat parallel to the hills? There are hills that side. He says, that's the respect I have for nature. One monument cannot face the other monument. And therefore, my building is not parallel, perpendicular. If it was me, I was joking yesterday with my students that I would place my building in such a way that everybody has the view. That's not important. The respectability of the hills is important. And now we realize if that was done, all the roads would be blank. Now all the roads, we can see the hills. You know the philosophy of Corbusier, of course, you know everybody. The only treatment done was the chief minister outside. Otherwise, the elevation is very straight. The terrace is absolutely used. It's all beautiful. Simple plan. One ramp here, other ramp here. That's it. It's a very old picture of the Secretariat while this was being constructed. No machines, no reinforced concretes at that time, no labor, just pure people, illiterate people who were taking the concrete up and down. This is the unbuilt governor's palace, still to be built. We all are fighting for this to be made. We have a committee, which I represent, and we are asking the public and the government to make this building as it is. Architects have their problems everywhere. When he made this building, the Prime Minister said that, no, it is too big for the governor. So we don't have palaces. So he made this design, which was very bad. He never wanted this to be approved. He wanted that to be approved. This is a kind of complex buildings. Scale. Leonardo da Vinci made one scale, Corbusier made one scale, and nothing else in between. He wanted to measure what he does, and therefore he made this modular. A lot of people don't understand modular. They said that the person who knew modular is no more living. The system of modular died with Corbusier. All these words in red are important for you and for me. Purity, logics, relationship with universe. He has all the symbols in the Capitol complex. The swastika, the sun. He had a great respect for the tradition of Indian subcontinent, and that's what it was done. He made 3 museums in his career. One is in Ahmedabad, one is in Tokyo, one in Chandigarh. This is the only museum in Chandigarh which is most functional, most visited, and most beautiful. When this museum was at his foundation level, he died. My father was working with him as an assistant architect. So the government told him, please carry it forward. Imagine an assistant architect to think like Corbusier did and make all these details. What an amazing story. So he got this building completed when there were no drawings, just the foundations. But they had a sketch, and that sketch gave them everything. So just imagine if there was no sketch of third dimension. Look at this building, old picture and the new picture. Then on the master plan, there was a cross like this. So my father said that maybe this was a part of the pavilion which he did in Switzerland, in Zurich. So he took that as an inspiration, made it into concrete, added a ramp, and that became a city museum. All these museums, we have done the interiors. We have all the Corbusier's drawings and paintings exhibited here. So when the people come, we have 4 to 5 museums in Chandigarh to visit. Like this inside. It's all very nicely exhibited for the people to see. How do you tell the story of a great city or a great master or the people who work under him in 2 days? It's so difficult. So we try our best so that all these museums work very efficiently. And then at the time, when squares, rectangles, and other straight geometry was functioning, this person, my father, made one of the biggest rotundas at that time, 1965. It has no structure system. It is all on the bricks. It's a museum of evolution. So whole of the cultural belt is designed by my father. And that's how these buildings are so important. So you need a lot of courage to go beyond. You need a lot of courage to break those barriers. So what he teaches us is that you learn something from a master, then you break the rules yourself, keeping the values intact. We carry forward, 3rd generation, myself, my son, we do not imitate images. We do not carry forward what is built. We have our own language, but we know what is important. As I said, he was a world teacher. Thank God he could write. Thank God for these printed books that we know so much. People often make and then they die without telling us how to do it well. Everything in Chandigarh is worth a research. Buildings is one thing. Beyond the buildings is other things. Small benches, the bridges, places to sit, the skylights, the street pictures, also amazing. You know, every road has got a different horticulture, different kind of trees, based on the sun path. Le Corbusier always had a big circle and a north point on his drawings. Sun tells us what to build. Sun tells us how to do it. And that was his efficiency. Every street picture, everything is so beautiful. And the emblems, the elements which he uses on his buildings. He leaves traces of art everywhere. He leaves traces of light. That amazing light which comes from the skylight is so magical. sculptures. The louvers itself is a part of art. So somebody asked him how it is a part of art. He says because when they clash with the sun, they create scigraphy. That shade and scigraphy is art. Rest is building. We are not looking at a building, you're looking at the shade of the louvers. That makes it different. My goodness, what a thing which he taught us. Look at all this. It's beyond the buildings. It's beyond something which you can actually understand. This is the whole set of generation of architects which they taught and left behind. And if you ask these people, they're so grateful. They did not go to any great school of architecture. They did not do any masters or degrees. But they learned from the master himself, and that's why they could learn architecture so good. It was one-to-one. It was just one-to-one. And they said that he kept a drawing in front of Corbusier. He would just make one round like this. And that was the error. Even today, after 30 years, I still show my plans to my father. And he says, no, it's okay, you don't need to show. I said, no, please see. Where his eyes stop, there is an error there. Even today, he tells us that there's an error here. So the difference of experience never diminishes, it's always there. The first building, after the tents, they moved into the first building they made, and they worked from this building. Stone, what was available, columns are made of stone, natural ventilation, jute, and lower systems, it's all sustainability at that time. Brick floors, brick structures, no concrete. 60 years of sustainable living. Some rare pictures. The man on below in the tie is my father. He gifted the picture to him. And that's genre, very close to him. What differentiates the buildings in Chandigarh, which impacted the Indian architecture, which further impacted the world architecture, is this. All these buildings, of which the exhibition is there in Alcala University, thanks to Professor Rosa, are so different. You cannot make out one building with other. There is no similarity. It's all based on function, all based on the utility. If one is a club, one is a museum, one is a Sikh Gurudwara, one is a cafeteria. So they teach us to be different. They teach us to execute one project, one at a time. Not what you learn and just hammer it on the drawings like this. Very intimate relationships they had one-to-one. It took a few years to break the ice, of course. And these people were, as I said, they were monks always buried in their work. But then as they understood the nature of a person, the caliber of a person, they were the ones to bring them together. John Ray could do all the buildings himself. Nothing stopped him to do that. But he said, no, Sharma, you do it. Prakash, you do it. So they were the one to identify the talent and give them the opportunity. That's the greatness of a person. That's a very solemn picture on the right. Jean Ray, his cousin, who worked for 17 years in India, he wanted his ashes to be submerged into the lake of Chandigarh. So that is his cousin Jacqueline, who is coming down to India to immerse his ashes. That's the kind of attachment they have with the city. This is the Sikh Gurudwara. Sikh in India, they have the turban. So this Gurudwara is taken from the turban. And at that time, no columns, columnless, big hall, concrete, Just imagine at that time what courage somebody had. And this is the kind of museums which my father built. The interiors, they also are aligning with the building. I had to tell you the story of Corbusier, Chandigarh, and concrete, the three elements which make this area so beautiful. Then we carry forward. I joined my father, and this is the kind of buildings we do in Chandigarh. When we're making public buildings like hospitals, it's all in concrete. But it does not stop us to be intelligent people. It does not stop the technology. We are not imitating what was built. We are carrying it forward. Concrete, of course, but then look at the cantilevers, the structure system, the services, the vertical services, horizontal services. It's all there. It's all modern, 10 years ago. The first eye care center made in the Asian subcontinent is this, only eye care. And we can see the iconography. We can see the system. We can see the elevations. They tell at what times they are made. We simply don't repeat. It is with the times, of course. Materials is dictated by the government, but then we have our own pleasure of making the buildings. This is our project in Delhi. Laboratories, circles, circular laboratories. Art is a part of it. It's also beautiful. This is all stone cladding because Delhi in this campus is led with stone. So we are growing, evolving, making our statement, making our architecture. What we learned, we're carrying forward. We're giving it. This is a cafeteria. In 60s, it was done. A lot of opposition came, but he did it. I'm making slides as, back and forth, to keep your interest alive, lest you sleep. This is the 7 years ago, this building by my father. It's an IT building. That concrete parasol. The use of appropriate glass at the time. Look at this plan. Every area, every room, every office has an outdoor extension. 85-year-old. Amazing stuff. I mean, first time when I talked in the government to get this approval, first time it was approved. It had such a strong image that this is now an emblem of the Chandigarh IT Park. There are several buildings which have come around it, but this remains as a very iconographic. So, carrying forward, you're growing, and that's what he tells us. I show you some of my projects quickly, which says, fine, this at the age of 91, he won this competition of a laboratory in Bhopal in India. And this is where I was telling yesterday to the students of Alcala that this is the 3 generations worked on this. He did the design, my father. My son helped him in details and making the competition documents. I went and spoke and did all the site work. And so we 3 worked on this project. And this is the latest buildings of our office where he still leads. It's so difficult. So sometimes we get very bored and tell him, can we take Sunday or Saturday off? He says, no, as long as I'm working, you please work. Concrete, back to bamboo. This is the Bamboo Museum in Himachal. And made by the bamboo, for the bamboo. It's a bamboo museum designed by this man. Look at the details, the play of light, the natural light which comes in, the mystery of the light which affects the bamboo. It's so beautiful. This is one of my projects in the campus of IIT Roorkee, one of the very major institutes. Carrying forward. Times to which it is built. It's zinc cladding building. It's there. The iconography is there. The boldness of architecture has been taught to us. but how to bring it forth based on the principles of the site, the sun path, the function, and the utility is this. Suddenly you understand after working for 10 years in the studio with him, like every other person, then you understand how to go about yourself. He did not give us any independent project for 10 years. Was working in his studio for 10 years. And I was the one who got the maximum scolding. Like this. The front elevations are like this. There is no front or back elevation, my father says. Everything is important. The whole sighting, the whole of the interiors is all very modern. It's all very modernistic. If I need light, I have the glass floors. If I need diffused light, I have the jalis, I have the calligraphy, but it's all there. It's all the first time in 100 years we gave this institute. And of course, these are the sketches I follow. I learned it from the masters, I also follow. First I conceive through the sketch and that gets translated. It's a collage of when a project, I show it like this to start with. This is a laboratory which I have done, again in Chandigarh. Imagery is the same. Our approach to architecture is the same. But what is important is the function of today. And we do it our own way. As I said, that this is how I wanted it. If you can see the image in the front elevation, it's very, very critical. The central porch, the interiors, the service corridors around it. It's all service corridors around it. This is the imagery of building. These hands are showing that the whole laboratory is very beautifully held with two hands of services. Because this is what matters. It's not the image, but the functioning of the labs which is important. And that's how it is done. This is how we are trying to make it. When you see from up, it's all in and around Chandigarh. The face gray and black something. This is our one of our engineering college down south in Coimbatore. Just telling you how we can approach anywhere. We are based in Chandigarh. We're working everywhere in India. It's a large complex, green building, 4-star Griha, all the parameters which are used for. We have a lot of breeze here, so did somebody do it deliberately? No. This is coming here. It's not up. Got it. So the sketch here, the corridor, and because the climate is different, and this is how I had to treat it like this. This is a museum in Coimbatore, very, very ultra modernistic, where you have the latest specifications, latest materials. It's a first engineering museum, and this is my School of Architecture in Coimbatore, where I am the design chair of it. I built it as a consultant, and then they asked me to run it also. So now I go there as two capacities, as a consultant and as an employee. Like these images, they're also very unusual in a place which is so different. These are the interiors of my School of Architecture there. And those ducks are also enjoying, the birds are also enjoying there. Last project is the convention center in the same place. And it's a 1300 piece of architecture which I designed there. So different, so with the times. But they wanted one convention center, and this is what it is. You see this from the top. Every building lifts the stature of a city. Who knew about Azerbaijan and Baku and all those countries before Zaha Hadid made a building of her own? It lifts the stature of the building. Chandigarh lifted the stature of the whole nation, the whole of India. This is what these buildings do. Great to have clients like this who allow us to do this. They have faith in us. You build faith over the years with clients, and that's how it is done. So this structure system, interiors, cross ventilations, the corridors, and that magical light which comes through the corridors is so beautiful. I always get very emotional when I speak about these things. And you walk here, you enter there, you walk here and come inside this. So this is the state-of-the-art auditorium inside, and the glass. First time in Asian subcontinent, the glass was curved like this and curved like this. So it was very difficult to convince the Saint-Gobain people. But this happened. Everybody gets excited when the project is very inspiring. Not ambitious, inspiring. And that's what happened in Chandigarh. Because the buildings were so inspiring that even the workers wanted to work on it. Everybody was putting their best because you are inspired. Not because you're getting your bread. No, it doesn't happen. So these are the projects where everybody was inspired. So they said, okay, let's do it. We haven't done before. So everything is different. The triangulation structure system is so difficult. Most difficult. Insulation was so difficult. But then this became an icon. This became a symbol of the city of Coimbatore. And I'm so proud. What we learned over the years, what I learned in my 57, 58 years, is the culmination of this. It does not resemble what I learned, but it conveys the same meaning of what I learned. And this, the landscape, the lighting, the inclusion of everything that became a part of and symbol of these buildings. Lastly, this is the hospital, again the same place. First time this organization engaged a practicing architect in 75 years. First time. Before that, all their professors of engineering used to make architectural blocks. And I'm happy that when we joined in, we are still working for them. It's been 20 years now. That's the kind of relationship we build because of your good work and understanding. So, global images, but they're very functional. They are made for that city. So we don't cut paste. You're not lifting something from Instagram and putting something. They are made for the site. It's like this. We need it. Because we need it, we design it. And suddenly we are so thankful to those masters, those teachers, our family and fathers, faculty who taught us how to understand architecture and then implement it. Not first you do it and then you make a story. It doesn't happen like this. Comfort, most important. Value of a human being, most important. We start from that. This is the project in Himachal, in hills. Look at the understanding of the hills, the sustainability. I can make a concrete building on the hills. I will not do it. I'm not trained like that. I've been taught to make a building where it must reside. This is hills. I love hills. I respect hills. But I can always give some shapes, some colors. But my technology remains the same. So this is a university in itself. But my combination of the geometry, which I learned, I am implementing. I'm carrying forward the geometry. I told you geometry, mathematics, science, technology, golden section, materiality, it's all there. I'm carrying forward. You can see a good image. That's a triple height porch. Look at that feeling when you enter into a triple height porch. It's so inviting. It's so good. It says, okay, come, I'm going to teach you here. This is the stainless steel balcony. It's on the hills. It has a history of 1,000 years. I must respect where I'm building, therefore it is like that. If you're making a school in a village, it's like this. I have the system of a filigree, of a great wall where I have the light, that sketch, transform into this. But it's all very domestic. It's all very low-rise. Entrance is glittering, but other places are all bricks, corridors. When I retain buildings in Chandigarh, I respect the old. When I'm asked to change, I don't break, I simply bring it back to the shape. That's how we preserve, that's how we conserve architecture in Chandigarh. Just a continuity. That was Corbusier, that's my father, and that's me. I know I'm not that good, but it's okay, I'm showing you that. This is Corbusier, it's my father, and that's me. I live on different times. This is the continuity. The continuity of the thought. And thank you very much for this time, and I appreciate it. If you want to ask anything, I can. They will translate it into English. You can ask in Spanish. Thank you so much for your efficient time, and I am honored to be here. Sir, thank you for the invitation, and sir, and Professor Rosa, everybody. And I wish to be back soon, talking to you on more projects like this. Thank you so much once again.